Well, I deeply appreciate this opportunity. Unfortunately, I bring sad tidings, but at the end of it, I think you're going to feel quite hopeful about our ability to resolve this crisis. And crisis is exactly what we're facing in the Chesapeake Bay watershed. What we have are 57,000 miles of degraded tributaries to Chesapeake Bay and the bay itself that's in some serious trouble. I believe that a good part of that is due to inadequate enforcement of our clean water protection laws, both point and non-point. I'm not going to go through all the dozens of different laws, but instead focus on stormwater management to illustrate how we can turn this around rather quickly. Beginning in the 1970s, stormwater BMPs, mostly ponds, were built throughout the Chesapeake Bay watershed. Rough estimates indicate that there could be 100,000 stormwater BMPs throughout the Bay watershed. Stormwater accounts for 1/3 of the sediment and nutrients entering the Bay from at least some Bay watershed states. Those BMPs, those 100,000 BMPs, could be keeping a large portion of that pollution out of the Bay. Unfortunately, the limited studies that we have indicate that many of those BMPs have not been maintained in a way to achieve that pollution prevention. And immense though the crisis may be, we really have no choice but to resolve it, because those BMPs, those ones that are in the ground, are going to be critical to bay restoration, no matter which MS4 or WIP you look at. The rest of this presentation, I'm going to show how, in just a few minutes of your time, each of us in the room, and then hopefully many other people, can play an active role in ensuring that BMPs in your area that serve your community are effectively maintained. Here you have 5 publications, all of which are available free of charge on our website. And there's the website right there. We have this 40-page publication and then these 4 fact sheets. The 1 to 2 page fact sheets are intended for the general public, and in particular people who live next to existing BMPs. The larger document explains how to evaluate all the existing BMPs, all the different types of BMPs in the Bay watershed. Guidance is also provided on how to get ailing BMPs repaired by working with the BMP owner or with regulatory agencies. In addition, the regulatory agency contact information is provided in the publication as well. I'm going to show you just how easy it is to evaluate an existing BMP to see whether or not it's still providing water quality benefits. 90% of all Bay watershed BMPs are probably ponds. Unfortunately, only 1/4 of those hold a permanent pool of water. I say unfortunate because you really don't get much in the way of pollutant retention unless there's a permanent pool of water there, and the larger the volume of water, the greater the pollution retention that you get in the BMP. So given this key factor, the key to evaluating that 25% of our BMPs that are wet ponds is how much of the original wet pool still remains. If a pond's working properly over time, it's going to accumulate sediments. Those sediments will be colonized by cattails and other vegetation. When a pond gets to the point where it only has half its original storage volume versus all of the original, it's to the point where it should be clean. Unfortunately, far too many ponds out there look like this, full of vegetation, full of sediment. Here we have one of our most effective BMPs, Bioretention, aka rain gardens. They remove 70 to 90% of the pollution load. As shown in the upper left illustration, they consist of a 4-foot deep pit filled with a highly organic sandy soil mixture. The surface is depressed 6 to 12 inches where you can store the first inch or so of runoff. As the runoff percolates down through the soil column, again, 70-90% of the pollutants are removed. The high quality water that flows from the bottom of the facility then travels through the earth to provide critical dry weather flow for streams and wetlands. How do you evaluate them? Well, they're pretty easy. They have to drain completely within 48 hours after the last rainfall. So if you see standing water in a bioretention facility or wetland vegetation, then it needs to be cleaned. It's got problems, it's clogged. or if it has less than 6 inches of storage area at the surface, it can no longer treat that first inch of runoff. So, now that you see how easy it is to evaluate BMPs, you're probably all just really anxious to get out there and start evaluating a few. But to do that, you've got to figure out where they are. Well, I suggest starting with your own community, or your own place of business, or worship, or recreation. And I suggest you start on a rainy day like today. Start at the downspout, and then trace the water flowing across the lawn or the parking lot to a storm drain inlet. Then follow the manhole covers, the storm sewer covers, down the street. Be careful. And you should come to a point where the storm drain system outfalls, the runoff discharges. There's a 1 in 3 chance that there's a pond at the end of that point. Fortunately, you can not only find most BMPs without trespassing, you can also evaluate them from adjoining public areas. So there's very little trespass involved in this situation. So what I would strongly suggest is, as you go about your day-to-day activities, whenever you have a few extra moments, when you go to your local shopping center, drive to the lowest point, see if there's a BMP there, and if it is, check it out for maintenance needs. Many BMPs are located next to homes, like these 8 homes here. Here we have a stormwater wet pond. Here's the pond itself. Here you see the positive and negatives that such a pond can offer. A well-maintained wet pond is a tremendous asset to the people who live next door. A poorly maintained one, though, can be a real nuisance, a real detriment to quality of life. We found that anywhere from 1/4 to half of the people who live next to existing BMPs would be willing to actively participate in maintaining those BMPs and alerting local government to when maintenance needs are required. Those people could be doing things like removing obstructions from low flow openings or keeping trees off of earth embankments. The fact sheets that I mentioned earlier, they're specifically designed for these BMP neighbors to show them what to do. But there's another very important reason for going after the folks that live next to these BMPs. There are no residents of a watershed that have a greater investment in good stormwater management than the people that live next to these facilities. If you got a good inspection and maintenance program, the BMP is going to be maintained in a way that actually adds to quality of life for the nearby residents. However, if they're not maintained properly, they're the ones who are going to suffer from mosquitoes and other problems as it declines. So if you're looking for a constituency to go after to provide the public support that's needed in order to upgrade an ailing BMP program or to keep a good one well functioning, these are the first watershed residents that you ought to go after. There is a myth out there that getting BMP owners to maintain BMPs is difficult. That's simply not true. It's not true that it routinely requires court action. Thank you. In fact, a well-funded stormwater program that's been operating well, the vast majority of the problems that are found are corrected as a result of the inspector simply bringing it to the owner's attention. It's not necessary to pursue aggressive action. Here you see all the things that could be done in order to improve the situation. Many watershed groups out there seem to think that they can't get involved in something like going out and evaluating BMPs without pissing off the local government or foundations. There's a general perception out there among watershed groups that you local government officials don't like it when people complain about BMPs to you, and they feel that the foundations that provide a lot of these groups funds will dry up the funds if they engage in these activities. I strongly encourage both local government and foundations to dispel that myth, because I know it is a myth. However, nobody's telling that in those many words to the citizen groups. What you might want to consider doing is encouraging citizens to attend the local stormwater BMP evaluation workshops that we have scheduled. They're shown up here on the webpage. If you don't see one in your area, let me know. I'll be happy to schedule one for your area. Thank you.